My name is CJ Arsenault. I'm with Telmetrics, and I'm really glad to be able to have the opportunity today to discuss local mobile attribution after the click. Mobile plays a pivotal role in consumers' purchase processes and often generates measurable offline actions. It's important for marketers to gain visibility into these offline actions in order to bridge the gap between mobile engagement and offline purchase activity. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So, first, just a very brief introduction to Telmetrics for those of you that aren't familiar with us. We are a call analytics and attribution technology company. Our solutions measure consumer response to advertising, where the call to action is a phone call, and we measure this response across any type of traditional or digital media. We work with the leading local and vertical search directories and advertising providers to help monetize the phone leads they generate for their local and national advertiser customers. So, a lot of research clearly speaks to the significant role that mobile plays in consumer purchase decisions, and this includes our own research as well. These stats are taken from some of the findings from our 2014 XAD Telmetrics Mobile Path to Purchase research conducted by Nielsen. And the stats really speak to how mobile reach and usage are shifting away from PCs, with mobile accounting for more than 50% of total time spent online. And in fact, mobile is often the only tool used to make purchase decisions, with more than 1/3 of users reporting using mobile exclusively, meaning they're not using any other media outlet to research their purchases. And this mobile-only stat can reach even higher depending on the category. For example, within the restaurant category, up to 60% of mobile shoppers use mobile exclusively. So overall, we see that mobile users convert in high numbers, with 2 out of 3 ultimately making a purchase. But what we're also seeing is, with the ubiquity of mobile, there has emerged a shift in the ability to influence offline engagement and spending. Offline activity plays a significant role in mobile consumers' purchase process, with more than 60% actually converting offline. So it's important to gain visibility into this offline engagement. Traditional online metrics like click-throughs and impressions don't bridge the online to offline gap. They can't really tell a marketer what a consumer did in the local marketplace. Now, for many marketers, offline metrics refers to in-store visits, and that is certainly relevant for retail-based categories. However, for many other categories, calls are a dominant consumer response and key engagement point. In our business, we find that calls are actually often overlooked in mobile attribution discussions, even though one of the primary uses of smartphones is to make calls. So from categories like plumbers and pest control and other in-home services, as well as professional services, automotive, and the list goes on, a call is one of the most common secondary actions after a search query or ad click. Now, these stats from Google also speak to the fact that calls are a key engagement point throughout the purchase process. Consumers want to be able to place a call at every stage, most importantly, though, during research and purchase. With half of mobile shoppers preferring ads that are locally relevant, when it comes to contacting a business via a phone call, it's not surprising that consumers have a 3-to-1 preference for local over toll-free numbers. Now, while calls are a key engagement point throughout the mobile path to purchase, we see them being primarily tied to lower funnel purchase activity, especially across certain categories, such as those listed here, being automotive, hospitality, and home services. And of course, when it comes to local searches specifically, that's where we see higher percentages of consumers converting via calls. So these stats really reinforce the importance of capturing and measuring these offline engagements. Calls are an essential piece of the offline attribution puzzle, as rich call analytics can help marketers not only accurately identify the source of those offline leads, but also reveal some purchase indicators. Now, our own data also speaks to the strong conversion behaviors and quality of local mobile consumer leads. And this isn't just based on call durations, although we've got these stats up here, but it's also based on when we compare and score mobile calls against calls driven by other digital programs, we see higher purchase intent and conversion activity with mobile callers. And from the advertiser's perspective, they rate calls as the most valuable lead format. Now, when it comes to measuring calls, Accurately capturing local mobile call-based leads can be a challenge if marketers are only measuring the number of clicks on call buttons, as these clicks don't actually confirm that calls were completed, and they don't provide any insights other than just that, click counts. However, marketers who leverage call tracking and attribution technologies, they can capture an accurate call-through rate and meaningful lead gen data. So through the placement of unique phone numbers in ads, call tracking and attribution technologies enable marketers to go beyond the click to effectively evaluate mobile or online call response. The resulting actionable intelligence, such as here is what we're seeing, is critical for measuring mobile engagement and optimizing overall ad campaigns. Measuring calls as calls and not clicks validates consumer purchase behaviors with insights about consumer engagement, rather than just measuring clicks on a call button and working on an assumption that the call connected and it was a valid lead. These clicks aren't enough. Marketers need visibility after these clicks. And some of that visibility includes tangible performance results, as well as cross-media attribution, whether it be split out by channel, distribution partners, keywords, etc. There's also lead generation data, which is very helpful and can be integrated with CRM data for closed-loop conversion measurement. As well, such things as call durations or even call recordings can be leveraged to actually score calls for deeper insights. So marketers can use all of these types of offline or after-the-click insights to refine and optimize their existing campaigns for increased lead gen. Next, I just wanted to touch on some best practices when it comes to making the most out of call attribution programs. So the first best practice deals with using local phone numbers to drive greater response. So local relevancy and content are key drivers in mobile ad engagement, and we see that here even with our mobile path to purchase research. If an ad or a listing doesn't have local relevance at the time of an action, the consumer will move on to the next business or listing. So including local phone numbers rather than toll-free helps provide additional locality cues for consumers searching for businesses nearby. Also, we see consumer calls are amplified when a local phone number is used. Taking a look at our own data, we see that with local ads that have local phone numbers, they generate 4 times the number of calls than ads with toll-free numbers. So this also underlines the importance of ensuring upfront local contact info in digital or mobile ads. Next, it's important to ensure that the leads you're delivering to your end advertisers are just that. They're actually leads. Spam and telemarketer calls or even wrong number calls are not only a nuisance, but can also dilute advertiser call response data. When we take a look at all the calls we're measuring across our network on an aggregate basis, we see that on average, almost 40% of all calls placed to a local ad are spam. And that stat goes even higher based on the media type, as we see here in the case of both mobile and print media. So the implication here is a spam call blocking feature is essential to ensure that only valid ad-driven leads are actually being delivered to your advertisers. And when it comes to ensuring quality calls are delivered to your advertisers, it's also important to establish the definition for quality calls up front with them, with parameters that reflect the advertiser you're trying to drive leads for. And this may include using category-specific benchmarks that go beyond call duration. Third best practice speaks to the importance of measuring calls as calls and not clicks, like I mentioned before. So when it comes to measuring calls for mobile ad placements, many marketers today are only measuring the number of clicks on those call buttons. And as a result, they're not able to gain any access to meaningful insights beyond click counts. And this approach is working on the assumption that the clicks resulted in connected calls and valid leads. However, marketers who leverage call tracking and attribution technologies gain visibility beyond those clicks, as we can see here, to capture an accurate call-through rate and meaningful lead attribution insights, which can then be used to more accurately evaluate lead quality and optimize programs for increased ROI and quality lead gen. Next, I've just got a case study that demonstrates this point. So in this case, a hotel chain knew a sizable portion of their reservations are researched online and then booked offline. They had been tracking clicks on call buttons within their ads and landing pages to measure calls for their local mobile ad program, but they lacked visibility into anything beyond the click to determine if the call really happened or any other additional analytics. So without metrics beyond those click counts, they couldn't determine, which networks, distribution partners, placements, or creatives were driving quality phone leads. In an effort to more accurately track which specific placements were driving quality offline phone leads, the hotel chain started measuring the actual phone calls that connected via call tracking technology. And once they started doing so, they were able to glean more actionable intelligence about the phone leads they were actually generating, including tying unique leads back to specific partner placements. They also were able to measure and test various display creative ad partners as well, and then use these attribution insights to drive more consumer conversions, with the result of realizing a more than 30% increase in overall campaign ROI. Okay, and the last best practice I wanted to share today has to do with closing the online-offline gap with dynamic call tracking. So dynamic call tracking, also known as dynamic number insertion or keyword-level call tracking, dynamically replaces phone numbers on websites or landing pages with call tracking numbers tied to the referring lead source or how the user arrived at the website in the first place. So this could be based on referring search engine, specific ad placements, keywords used, or any other type of variable. In this example, we can see how the same user would be presented with a different phone number on the same website when clicking through from a Google search ad versus a Bing search ad. Any calls placed to these numbers on the website would then be attributed back to the originating source that delivered the lead. So in this case, either the Google search ad or the Bing search ad. And this would provide a more holistic view of online and offline lead gen. In essence, dynamic call tracking connects the dots between a digital ad or search campaign and any resulting calls placed from an advertiser's website or landing page. So here we've got a single user, but we see different contact numbers being presented on the same site to the same user based on the channel used to access the site. So as a result, no attribution is lost, with website calls being accurately attributed back to the lead source that triggered the site visit in the first place. So let's actually take a look at an example of how one company leveraged this technology to close the attribution gap. So in this case, there was a local search directory that was already utilizing call tracking numbers within their directory ads and listings to measure and gain attribution for calls generated based on if consumers place calls directly from those ads or listings. However, directory attribution was lost when searchers clicked on the direct link to an advertiser's website within the directory ad, and once they went to the website, they then made a call. There were calls being placed on the advertiser websites as a result of the click-throughs from the referring directory ads, but the directory provider had no visibility as to what was happening after these clicks. So they implemented dynamic call tracking to help bridge this gap by revealing how many advertiser website visits triggered by directory ads resulted in calls. Specifically, each time a consumer clicked through one of the directory listings or ads to visit an advertiser's website or landing page, the phone numbers on that site were dynamically replaced with call tracking phone numbers tied to the directory campaign, so that any calls placed to those numbers would then be attributed back to the referring directory ad. As a result, the directory provider found that 37% of consumers who accessed advertiser sites from directory ads placed a subsequent call to those advertisers. These were phone leads that the directory was already generating for their advertisers. But now, after implementing dynamic call tracking, they were actually able to gain credit for them, which meant an immediate overall attribution lift, translating to stronger lead gen story and proof of performance to support advertiser growth and retention. Without this technology, the calls being placed on the websites would have been incorrectly attributed to the wrong source, and the directory would have lost any credit for them. So great things are happening offline after the click. It's just a matter of gaining visibility and credit for it. Local mobile attribution success hinges on capturing offline consumer engagement points, which, when combined with traditional click-based metrics, provides for a more complete picture of mobile or digital ad performance. Applying trusted offline attribution metrics, including calls, is key for local advertising providers and marketers to effectively bridge the gap between mobile engagement and ultimate purchase activity. And with that, I'll say thank you very much. I've included my email address on here as well, so please feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you.